Hello, and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we did the Carnegie case, the side story that involved a lot of characters, especially a lot of the students, and had a big focus on characters such as Toby Maru, who we found out that he has a really bad relationship with his family because of inheritance stuff and other things. Actually, he even is disliked by his own father, but he spends the night outside and ends up helping Aoko in her case to find out how Sojiro got a job that is paying hella dough. And this was dubbed the Dosh Affair, I believe. Oh man. And involved tailing Sojiro, leading into a building, and then essentially breaking down a crime ring or a scamming ring. Just to find out, no, we went to the wrong place. That's the wrong building. But Sojiro was actually working as a housekeeper for someone, but ended up getting a lot of money because they wanted them to essentially be their grandson. But he felt guilty about keeping the money, so he decided to save up the money that he was given and then give it back to the old lady at the end. But we have another side story. I'm going to tackle this once we get the books in between, because I do want to tackle some main story, and I don't want it to be like out of place in terms of the time. So we'll hit the next episode, which is Scar Red. Let's head into it. December, the month when even monks were busy at work. It was the culmination of the year. Perhaps due to all the off-put tasks that build up through the seasons, the month always seemed to pass by in a blink of an eye. It was a day, like any other in December. Chapter 9, Scar Red. Though none of them were any the wiser to what the others were doing, Aoko, Alice, and Sojiro had spent the day attending to their own affairs. Oh, it is now near sunset. Okay, we went through a lot of like slice of life stuff. I'm assuming we're gonna go back on track and tackle the issue with the mage that's in town. We're about halfway through the game. We're technically a little bit more, so I'm really surprised we haven't gotten a lot more interaction with a certain character that I know is gonna show up. But I guess maybe soon? Immediately, suppressing the urge to murder someone, her terrifying voice boomed across the room. Oh man, I'm gonna kill someone. The sunroom was often used to dine in when the weather was nice, since it overlooked the courtyard. It was a room decorated with high-quality furniture and upholstery befitting an historical Western-style mansion. The fusion of Chinese Chippendale aesthetic and the traditional English Georgian elegance caused even Aoko, a commoner, to think twice about doing anything unaristocratic on the grounds. Truthfully, she was sickened by the flagrant waste of money, but none of it was paid out of her pocket, so she could have cared less what the purchasers spent their money on. 3 unbelievably out-of-place offerings sat atop the lavish sunroom table, as if enshrined. Ramen noodles, yes! In stark contrast to the room, they appeared like meals prepared by aliens.
Sojiro, これ、なんか新しい冗談?
Aoko's trembling fists clenched and unclenched as she questioned the one. Is she that pissed about getting ramen? Instant ramen? As she questioned the one responsible for today's menu. The clock struck 9 in the evening. The chef in charge nodded dutifully, eager to explain. Allow me to explain.
これはうちの会社の新製品。パチモン臭いが、中身は本当にパチモンだ、と木の実が言ってた。でも俺は本物よりいいと思う。
You're gonna serve these people who are in charge of our lives with something that one of your friends said look and taste fake? Okay.
そんなことより評価すべきは、社内販売なんで1個40円を切る低価格だ。
The true reason, they were on a discount, so I got this meal on a bargain.
すごいぞ。卵をつけても60円とか。
The lackluster chef seemed pleased with himself as he boasted. Aoko wanted to grumble that the real steal was her appetite.
そう、よかったわね。ところで、今日の夕飯はどこにあるの?
The chef thought for a second or two, then clapped his hands together in revelation.
青崎、そんなに食べると太るよ。
And here lies Sojiro, who died from a punch to the gut from Aoko.
つまりこれが夕飯だって言い張る気なのね、あんたは。
言い張るも何もこれ以外用意していない。
My job here is done. Alice is like, oh my, oh. The two stood there, glaring at each other. Aoko gave off an air that said she would rather die than to eat his food. Food? While Sojiro was convinced that she would capitulate eventually. So confident, he even considered chiding her about being so picky. As usual, the two would not see eye to eye.
いや、私は食べないからね、こんなの。
お姫様みたいなこと言うんじゃない。だいたい今日の夕食代はこれで3名様200円未満なんだぞ。
Well, excuse me, princess. Sojiro puffed his chest out at his penny-pinching prowess. Alice alternated her gaze between the two quarreling roommates and the strange food before her, which she had also never seen before. She remained a mere bystander in all this.
信じられない。一人60円の食事ってあんた一体いつの生まれよ。
Yo, that's value. It's in the 80s.
このご時世、新しくできた牛丼屋ですら贅沢に原価上げてるわよ、バカ。
青崎、1ヶ月の食費が3万円だけであんな好き勝手な食生活をしていたら、俺が君たちに殺される前に全員が飢え死ぬと思うんだ。
If we all ate like you two wanted with only 30,000 yen, we'd all starve before you two could kill me.
確かに昨日のアリスの肉料理は素晴らしかった。
Wait, so the three of them have a budget, like living together? Huh. I mean, it makes sense, but I thought they would each individually have their own budget.
グラム700円から肉は種類が変わるんだって感動した。生協の果汁 100% ジュースだってちょっと本気でバカにできるもんじゃないと反省したよ。けどあれが3日続いたらこの家はどうなってしまうんだい？
Sojiro was making perfect sense for once. Fortunately, neither Aoko nor Sojiro noticed the silent stare of disapproval coming from Alice. She's like, come on, I deserve more than this.
その時はその時よ。それにね、昨日みたいなのはめったにないの。アリスはあんたの料理に触発されて柄にもなく頑張ったみたいだけど。
Oh right! In terms of the story, the last thing that happened was Sojiro making lunch for Alice, and she was like, this monstrosity actually tastes pretty good. With Aoko's words, Alice closed her eyes. She might have been trying to quell her anger.
信じられない。じゃあ今までどんな生活してたんだ、青崎たちは。
Actually, maybe Alice isn't pissed at the food, but just pissed because she wants to eat, but they're busy arguing, so she can't start eating yet.
その時はそれぞれで何とかやってたわ。飢え死に一歩手前ぐらいいい精神修行じゃない。
Her brazen response left him speechless. Though a story for another time, Sojiro remembered a warning from a certain vice president who was complaining about a certain president incessantly bugging him to take her out to lunch by the end of the month. At the end of the month. But that was neither here nor there.
そんな昔のことより今のこと。前に見せたあの腕はどこに行ったのよ、宗十郎。あれを見込んで今日の夕飯を任せたっていうのに。
I can't cook with like no ingredients in the kitchen because we're all broke. Out of everything, that seemed to be what ate at Aoko the most. The stir-fry yaki udon he had prepared previously had been very well received. It had even melted away Aoko's morning grumpiness with just one bite. However, Sojiro had not seen it fit to tell them that it was one of the only dishes in his limited repertoire. For a bachelor, the ability to cook is as close to a superpower as one could get. 15 years into the future, it would likely become a highly desirable trait. Regardless, that misunderstanding had led Aoko and Alice to overestimate Sojiro's culinary talent. Her ire finally made sense to Sojiro.
わかった。自腹を切るから出前を取ろう。作るにしても材料がないからな。
See, that's what I mean. No ingredients.
その代わり、それは回収する。
Aoko basked in her victory. It was then, after seeing Sojiro's face as he went to fetch the delivery menu, Aoko realized her misreading of him. What annoyed Aoko the most was the fact that such little effort was put into dinner. But to Sojiro, This dinner had not been about cutting corners, but rather about getting a meal he had legitimately wanted to try. Aoko ruminated on how it could probably pass as food for someone raised in the mountains. And then...
アリス、何してるの?
Aoko noticed Alice standing near the table, holding one of the bowls tightly.
もうそれはいいんだってば。宗十郎に返してきちんとした出前にしましょう。
No, eat it. It looks so good even though it's so plain. Despite Aoko's words, Alice stood her ground, firmly clutching the bowl. In fact, she seemed to be embracing it.
これ、私のだから。
This one's mine. That's exactly what she said when Sojiro made the food for her. She's like, this is mine. You're no one's taking this away from me. Alice's faint voice drifted across the sunroom. And just like that, the night's menu had been decided by majority rule. Aoko's shoulders sank in disappointment at her lot that evening. Come to think of it, Alice was always particular about things she deemed were hers. It was morning, and there were 10 days left in December. Ah, it's the 21st. While the rest of the city was preparing for Christmas festivities, Sojiro headed to his part-time job. Though it looked like it could snow at any minute, the tree-lined streets were bustling with people. These days were particularly merry. Students on winter break spent their days hanging out with friends while they counted down the days until the seasonal holidays. A flashy banner for Christmas cakes. Huge advertisements adorning the building's fronts. The station plaza bustling with pop-up stalls. From among the crowd in this heaving district, Sojiro stepped into a phone booth. Safe from the winter wind, the inside seemed warm by comparison. The thought that it would actually be nice to have one in the mountains crossed his mind as he inserted a coin into the phone. He dialed a number from memory, his hands moving on its own. After 5 seconds, the phone began to ring. After another 5 seconds, another ring. 10 seconds had passed. He gazed through the window at the various signs on the surrounding buildings and marveled at the sheer number of people out and about so early. The number he dialed on was that of Tobimaru Tsukiji. Oh! The Tsukiji name was well known in Masaki as a distinguished land-owning family going back generations, and we know a little bit more about them because of the side story. Yeah! Incidentally, the resident was located in the neighboring town of Yashirogi. The ringtone was finally replaced by the kind voice of an elderly woman. After her polite greeting, she handed the phone over to Sojiro's target.
Ohayo, Tobimaru.
What are you doing? He was still half asleep, or so it sounded to Sojiro.
一つ相談があるんだけど、いいか?
You may speak. His response did not exactly inspire confidence in Sojiro, but he cut right to the chase. You know, you're time limited in these payphones. The vice president's pause was a long one. It was hard to read from this end of the receiver.
単純なことで俺を起こすな。いいか、宗十郎。仲が悪けりゃ遊びに行け。機嫌を取りたきゃいいとこ見せろ。で、それが合わなきゃ早めに手を切れ。
He's asking for girl advice.
アドバイスはそんなもんだ。
And with a piece, Tobimaru hung up. It may have been 10 in the morning to Sojiro, but after dealing with what seemed like 6 o'clock Tobimaru, all he could do was accept his advice. He could say all he liked about the guy's tone, but deep down, he knew that his advice was sound. Now it's time to call Hosuke and then get killed. After the phone ordeal, Sojiro finished up his shopping and returned to the mansion just before noon. He was greeted by the sight of Aoko and Alice sitting in silent gloom. Though unsure of the circumstance, from the outside looking in, it seemed like the aftermath of an argument. It was similar to the calm after a violent blizzard, accompanied by biting winds and stinging hail, or a similar atmosphere to the inside of an industrial freezer. It would not have been surprising to look up and see icicles hanging from the ceiling.
やっぱり、今日もか.
Every day. He felt like a zookeeper, pained to see the raccoon and penguin at each other's throats. He had seen this at his job at the zoo. Oh, I forgot he worked at the zoo, where he was a cleaner. Sojiro found himself staring at them with the familiar forlorn look of the zookeeper. I wonder which one's the penguin and which one's the raccoon. Needless to say, the silence meant that they were not fighting at this moment. Dinner served as a respite from the infighting. Sojiro was oblivious to the circumstances surrounding the quarrel, but their day in, day out battles against the mysterious mage was clearly taking a toll.
もっとも、アリスはいつも通りだけど。
Just her normal self. Facing a quiet and contemplative Aoko, Alice was reading an old book, now sat on her lap, as she was accustomed to. Is that right? Okay. The book seemed somewhat heavier than the other ones.
ただいま。煮詰まってるな、ここんところ。
He asked him as he took off his coat.
煮詰まるぐらい事態が進んでるならまだ面白みもあるんでしょうけどね。今の御用よ、宗十郎。
It's a calm before a storm, not after. Without quite knowing what Aoko was getting at, Sojiro quizzically tilted his head. He told himself not to think too hard into it, but he could not entirely help it.
煮詰まってるってことはもうじき完成ってことでしょ。進展がないって意味合いなら行き詰まってると言うべきね。
Seemingly too preoccupied to scold Sojiro, Aoko waved her hand as though shooing off an insect. Less rights than a dog. I forgot about that. But Sojiro being Sojiro.
じゃあ言い直して。いや、あれから進展はあったかい？
The answer is no. Sojiro was not willing to give up and held his ground.
宗十郎には関係ないわ。こっちの事情に関しては不可侵だって言わなかった？
Her response was calm, but sharp. Surliness was her weapon of choice, and today she seemed determined to swing it at will.
もちろん聞いてる。ところで、お昼はまだだろ？
Sojiro chose to brush off Aoko's attitude. If Aoko's weapon was surliness, Sojiro's was blitheness. And he wielded it just enough to make Aoko flinch.
どうしたの今日は？何かいいことでもあったわけ？
Sojiro shrugged his shoulders.
まだなんだ。じゃあ、ちょっと提案がある。
Oh, okay. He said as he dug around the pocket of his now hung-up coat. Aoko gave a puzzled stare while Alice's ears perked up at how positive he sounded.
実は今日、給料日だったんだ。お金も入ったことだし、外に遊びに行こう。
Oh, he's treating, unlike the side story. He spoke with a warm smile and then removed his wallet from his coat pocket. The other two did not know what to make of it. Oh man, he's awfully sus.
宗十郎。
She wanted to take the exception to his bright mood, but found herself wrestling with the idea of reacting positively to it. After all, he was making a gesture of good faith to try and make things better with what little funds he had. The thought itself was not a bad one, and she wanted to accept his earnest goodwill, but there was always the chance that Alice would keep quiet until the slightest thing annoyed her, at which point she would dash all their plans. However, she was not in the mood to walk around town with either of the two, nor was the timing ideal.
悪いけど今忙しいの。暇になったら思い出してあげるからしばらく我慢して。
Alice seemed to give the same response, though wordlessly. Sojiro was not about to be held back by the sullen mood.
忙しいって、ここで黙り合ってるだけじゃないか。徹夜漬けの時、気分転換は必要だって言ったのは青崎だろ。行き詰まったら回り右して戻らないと、どこにも行けない。
Sojiro spoke with unusual confidence as he drew 2 tickets from his wallet and slapped it on the table. Oh, the aquarium, I guess. At first glance, they looked like advance tickets to a movie, but not quite. They were tickets to the famous aquarium. To get there, they would have to take the rapid train and subway to a city several times more modern than Misaki. A city that housed the biggest shopping mall in the prefecture, set to open next year, as well as a multi-purpose auditorium big enough to stage international conferences and famous plays.
それと、夜はメシアンでカレーでも食べてくれ。
Damn, he's being super generous now, especially on his very limited budget. Saying that, he slapped 2 bills on the table, as if he struck it rich. They're like, whoa! It was Sojiro's turn to make dinner tonight, after all.
じゃあ、そういうことで。
Finished saying his piece, Sojiro returned his wallet to his coat pocket. It was then that Aoko realized what Sojiro meant by seeing you.
ちょっと待った。そういう んたはどうするのよ。
Yep, good luck. I'm not taking you on a date.
今日はアルバイト。
Sojiro was almost too quick with his response, helping Akko to see things for what they really were. Rather than for Sojiro's benefit, his gesture was instead to attempt to ease the tension that had built up between Akko and Alice. Though, if asked, both girls would tell you that it was an unnecessary gesture. However, for him to pay this much attention to the household, if anything, gave Akko reason to reflect on her own immaturity. Akko glanced over to the still-seated Alice. At the same time, Alice peeked up at Akko from behind her book. They kept still, staring at each other.
私は構わないけど、今やれることは全部やってあるし。
The Yoru route.
そうね。そういうことならせっかくだし。
Alice stood up from the sofa, resigned to her decision. Sojiro watched on, a satisfied smile on his face. Look at that boy. He's so awesome. 20 minutes later, as Akko and Alice were done getting ready, Akko called out to Sojiro in the drawing room.
それじゃあ出かけてくるから、あんたもバイト。そうじろ？
Sojiro was crouched in front of the television, unaware that the two had entered the room.
もしかしてビデオいじってるの？
ああ、ちょうどよかった。青崎、これ。
As he turned to face them, he froze. Whoa, are they going to be cold that way? Or are they just getting ready? And facing them only exasperated the problem. They're literally polar
私たち
opposites.
お言葉に甘えて出かけてくるけど、どうしたのよ一体。棚の後ろに落とし物でもしたの？
Sojiro appeared to have gone stiff. Akko stared at him curiously. Is he? Okay, no, I thought he was blushing for a second. Though Alice silently nodded along with his bizarre reaction. She kept her thoughts to herself.
いや。なんかこう。
Still gawking, his voice stuck in his throat. He was blissfully unaware that the shock he was experiencing was the direct result of his emotional state.
それじゃわからないってば。まったく、落ち着いてるくせに妙に挙動不審なんだから。アリスに煙たがられても仕方ないっていうか。
He thinks you look good, both of you. Alice looked on in silence. He was not confused, or in a daydream, that much he could tell. But this frozen look was by all accounts a first for Sojiro.
それで何かあったの？
ああ、いや。これなんだけど、青崎、ビデオってどう使うんだ？
Shaking his head to regain his composure, Sojiro pointed to the VCR. A VHS player sat on a shelf beneath the TV.
何？タイマー録画でもするの？
Akko walked over and crouched next to Sojiro in front of the TV.
いや、木の実からビデオを借りたんだけど、映らない。
No! Kinomi! No!
まず、テレビの電源が入ってない。
With a click, the TV screen flickered alive.
次、チャンネルを外線に合わせて。あら、意外にも真っ黒。木の実くんのことだからテープ頭から録画してると思ったけど。
Oh no, no, no. During this time period, the videotapes were still rather expensive. Therefore, it was only natural for people to not want to waste a single second of the tape's 120-minute capacity.
割と趣味には気を使う性格なのね。じゃ、早送りっと。
Oh no, oh no. Akko picked the small remote up and quickly pushed the button marked forward. No. The VCR beeped in protest. With several clicks and thuds, there was an empty whir from within the machine.
壊してないぞ、多分。
I don't think I broke it. Maybe. The vast majority of people who say this are actually very prone to destroying electrical equipment. But that is a separate matter. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular.
おまけにテープが入ってない。
As soon as the words left her lips, it all made sense.
テープ
Sojiro imagined adhesive tape. Clearly confused.
宗十郎、木の実くんから何か渡されなかった？
渡されたけど、ほら、テーブルの上。
Though she should have been used to it by now, she caught herself wondering if Sojiro was being stupid deliberately.
木の実くんが何て言ったか覚えてる？
テープ貸してやるから、家に帰ったらビデオを見ろ、と。
Yeah, he got home and just watched the TV.
一番大事な言葉が抜けてたわけね。はあ、失望を通り越して怖くなるわ。あっさり順応しているように見えてこれだものね。どんだけ綱渡りな毎日送ってんのよ、あんたは。
Alice is just there, like, okay, yeah, just get on with it. Exasperated, Alko fetched the tape in question. It was labeled Wild Animal Kingdom, African Adventure. To Alko, this knocked Hozuki Kinomi down a level on the ratings file she had kept within the student council.
で、このテープをデッキに入れて再生すればいいの。爪は折ってないから、録画ボタンだけは押さないようにね。
爪とは？
ここ。テープの側面にへこみがあるでしょ？これをカバーしているのが爪。これを切り取っておくと、もうそのテープは上書き録画できなくなるのよ。そうね。例えるなら授業のノート。大事なものだから消しゴムで消えないようにフィキサチーフをかけたっていうか、ヒューマンエラーを物理的に防止するアナログな防御法ってわけ。
She inserted the tape into the VCR and handed the remote to Sojiro. Just this small interaction used up a fair bit of Aoko's patience. Completely ignorant of Aoko's feelings, Sojiro gleefully pressed the play button.
前から危なっかしいと思ってたけど、まさかここまでとはね。時代さ。
Oh, whoops.
あんた、山で何やってたの？空手家じゃあるまいし、熊を倒す修行でもしてたとか言わないでしょうね。
Whether or not she knew this was rude, Sojiro glanced at her with disdain.
それは、もしかして俺をバカにしてるのか？
I've been trying this entire time.
心外ね。事実バカにしてるんだけど。
Yeah. Alko answered unapologetically. On the TV, a crocodile's yawning mouth appeared.
そんなバカな話があるもんか。なんで熊を倒すために修行しなくちゃいけないんだ。
Sojiro turned towards the TV in a huff. Perhaps because of his rare outburst, as he turned face to face with the gaping maw of the crocodile on the TV, he fell backwards in surprise. Oh, right! Yeah, he said he didn't know what an alligator or crocodile was. Forgot which one. And then he said that he would lend him a tape. I forgot. Okay, great. It's not R18 stuff. Alko unpursed her lips upon seeing this. Delighted. It was relieving to see the boys disarmed.
けど青崎、この機械ずいぶん埃が積もっているけど、掃除はしていないのか？
私はあんまり使わないし、アリスは見ないから今までほっぽってただけよ。ダメ元でトレーニング用に買ってもらったんだけど、飽きちゃった。イメージでどうにかできる問題じゃなかったっていうか。
I thought that if I watched people exercise, I would lose those calories. Alko shrugged at her past superficiality. And Sojiro was led to believe yet another falsehood about modern life, that VCRs would go out of fashion.
それじゃあ留守番お願いね。バイト、本当はないんでしょ？
Alko said, smiling as she walked out of the drawing room.
Oh.
Her grin was the cheap shot that left Sojiro speechless. As he scratched his cheek, she was reminded of how she was not someone to be trifled with. After watching the end of the drama between the other two, Alice made for the reception area as well. Left alone in the room, Sojiro took a seat on the sofa. Well, it was certainly not easy making everything run smoothly around these parts. Until they came back, he could enjoy his crocodile watching in peace. They took the subway from Misaki for 6 stations. From there, they rode another 3 stops by express train. After about an hour, Alko and Alice arrived at Arisaka Station. While Misaki City was a mixture of old and new architecture, Arisaka was a brand new town built in accordance with a recent government ordinance. It was as though an entire town full of tall buildings sprouted up in the middle of nowhere. It was near the end of December, in the middle of the winter break. Oh, new music. Dun 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 dun. Ba-da-da-da-da. Even the bustling plaza in Misaki was quiet compared to our Arisaka in the evening. Whether its huge mall full of countless specialty stores or its crowded multi-purpose auditorium, there was really something here for everyone. A little something for everyone. But for that reason, beyond its local residents, Arisaka Station was crowded with people from far and wide.
へえ、あれが新しい演劇ホールか。県内最大のコンサートホールらしいけど、中はどうなってんだろう。なんか周りのビルより背が高くない？
Alright, she's a rock fan. She probably would come here again in the future. You can see Alice with her hat. They made their way to the aquarium, weaving through the crowds. Alko might have been used to the city life, but Alice was silently anxious. The people passing by must have thought this pale girl out of place, which Alice happened to agree with. I guess this pale girl was out of place.
来年夏にはビッグアーティストも来日予定。
Ah!
ピンクトゥルーレが入ってない？
Pink turd?
これ日本
Oh,
初ライブよ、アリス。
Pink Trudy. Alko exclaimed, overcome by excitement. This kind of pop rock band was right up Alko's alley, but naturally, Alice did not seem very interested.
それよりセレモニーに予定されてるポーランド楽団の方が驚きだと思うけど。
Ah, yes, the Polish orchestra.
随分とお金がかかっているようね。これない。
Alko cursed under her breath for hurrying them along. Underneath the construction map read, with the support of Kuonji Group. Ah, the Kuonji Group. I don't know anyone from that family. The aquarium they were looking for was on the top floor of a massive building. Ah, it's this song again. Maybe it was because it was no longer a new attraction. Or perhaps it was because the first floor cinema drew the crowds. But with only a few people scattered around the entrance, the atmosphere inside was very calm. Not quiet, but desolate. And far removed from the hustle and bustle outside. Perhaps they were going for that museum-like vibe. Alice quietly caught her breath, staring in awe. Like a child seeing the circus for the first time. Oh, the circus! Did you say the circus? That would have been a perfect place for her Chloe kickshaws. Her eyes were widened in anticipation and wonder.
お、気に入ったみたいね。よかったよかった。
Oh, look at her. Okay, it's a little bit blurry now. But she's emoting.
宗十郎おすすめの物件は気難しいアリスさんのお眼鏡にかないましたか？
Alko found herself smiling as well. There was a certain joy in seeing Alice's wonderment.
別に屋上にある水族館が珍しいだけ。
Yeah, nothing special. According to the guide on the wall, the entrance to the aquarium was nearly as big as the Kuonchi Mansion foyer. The outdoor penguin show was apparently suspended due to the star penguin Flippy undergoing treatment for an injury. No! An unfortunate state of affairs, but one did not stop Alice from continuing to read over the guide. Apparently, she was quite familiar with penguin shows. Then... Wait, what? She's reacting to something. What is it? Said like someone who could not believe what they saw. Alice quietly whimpered, as if holding back a scream.
何々、どうしたの？
Oh no, Alice said, still looking at the floor plan. Oh no, she's so sad. What could this possibly be? It was rare to see Alice getting this emotional outside the mansion. For some reason, she was trembling. Nothing seemed terribly off about the aquarium's offerings.
ゾウガメがいない。
Oh. No, what?
話が違うわ、青子。どうしてゾウガメの展示スペースがないの？
どうしてって、そりゃゾウガメぐらいになったらもうほとんど陸上生物だからじゃない？大きいし。
なんでペンギンはいるのに不公平よ。イルカだって許せないわ。
This is sacrilege. The Kuonji estate will no longer be funding this aquarium. It was a bitter pill for Alice to swallow. The idea that they did not have a giant tortoise, despite having a dolphin, had Alice's eyes hot with indignation.
ああ、言われてみれば確かにペンギンとイルカは定番なのになぜゾウガメだけ外されるのか。ちょっとした日常の落とし穴ね。
Sacrilege. Alko said, certain something like a giant tortoise would be boring and unpopular. She was sensible enough to read the room, however, and kept her thought to herself.
アリス、こっち。チケットはあるからそっちに並ぶことはないわよ。
A few moments after the giant tortoise fiasco, presenting the tickets they received from Sojiro, they head towards the once popular entrance. From the entrance gate, the corridor stretched into a dark hallway, completely illuminated in blue. Figures and faces became a mere silhouette in the darkness. Not a darkness born from magecraft, but a man-made area of twilight. What? Into the light! A world of shadow and blue, the only light being from the illuminated tanks. The two witches continue walking down the artificial ocean corridor. Water tanks like windows into hundreds of different worlds, each with their own separate temperature and environment. A snapshot of the same place at different times. Mesmerized by the refracting images of the ocean floor, conversation grew sparse.
そういえばアリスの家ってあれだけ大きいのにプールとかないわよね。なんで？
呆れた。水槽を見て何を想像したのかは聞かないけど、必要ないものを欲しがるのはあなたの悪い癖ね、青子。
必要ないってことはないんじゃない？水遊びはこっちよりそっちの方が馴染み深いでしょうに。あ、もしかしてアリス泳げない？
泳ぎの経験ぐらいあるわ。夏は湖で何度も遊んだもの。
That isn't a yes!
私、大型のセントバーナードにだって負けなかったのよ。
Saint Bernard?
セントバーナードってアリスさんからもしかして息継ぎとか苦手かしら？
この世で最も聞きたくない言葉の一つね。クロールとかバタフライとか。発明した人は半魚人になればいいのに。
People who invented those were probably half fish anyways. Clack, clack, clack. Their pace was more delicate and solemn than a stroll along the beach. Their conversation continued, but was only particular for being in particular. Okay? In here, the only thing to do was to look at the blue screens.
でも驚いた。あんなにあっさり館の留守を任せるなんて。あいつがこっそり西館に入るかもとか考えなかった？
彼、そこまで考えなしじゃないでしょ。それならそれで手間が省けてせいせいした？そうじゃなくて、一度交わした約束は破らないんじゃないかって。
That he was not. At least not on purpose. Alko nodded, her long hair waving back and forth. A certain gleam of surprise in her eyes. Onwards, they meandered to the next aquatic world. Clack, clack, clack.
ところで水族館は初めて？
これで2度目。昔、友達と2人で行ったきり。
She has a friend. She has a friend.
嘘、本
当？6年以上も前。まだイギリスにいた頃。
そうじゃなくて友達の方。あんた友人はいないって言ったじゃない。
昔の話よ。私たち同じ名前だったの。
Oh, so her name was Alice.
それが縁でよく遊んでいたけれど、長続きはしなかったわ。
Is there another Alice in the Nasiverse? Not that I know of at the moment.
そっか、あっちじゃそう珍しくない名前なのね、アリスって。こっちで言うところの涼子とか花子みたいなもの？
ええ、青子とか赤子とか黒子とか白子みたいなものよ。
後半はみんな普通名詞なんですけど。
I mean, cold doesn't mean child, so it'd be like a child of blue, child of red. To each their own, a society of names. The swirling of the waters was dizzying, much like the hectic world of humans. Their hands swung back and forth as they walked towards their next world.
そういう青子は彼をどうするつもりなの？
どうって今の一件を終わらせるまでおとなしくしてもらって落ち着いたら忘却のルーン探してなかったことにするだけでしょ？これ以上迷惑かけられないわよ。
I kind of wish they filled in the for lack of a better word, screens, like the panning the window with maybe some animals to see what they're looking at. It's kind of hurts the eyes just seeing this.
それは私に？
ああ、そうに決まってるじゃない。ところでこの魚綺麗よね。なんか泳ぎたくなってくる。アリス、来年の夏は海にでも行ってみよっか。
Oh no, they're hesitating. Maybe they don't want him gone.
海ってあの海？
もちろん。夏の海って言ったら灼熱の太陽と砂浜、水平線に沈む夕日ってね。今年は行けなかったけど来年は一緒に行かない？
呆れた。本当、あなたって楽観的。でもそうね、夏まで生きていられたのならそういうこともあるかもしれない。
Oh no. That kind of sounds like a death flag. But I'm not sure for who. No. Clack, clack, clack. The two girls journeyed to the next oceanic wonderland, mutually taking in the sights. The visitors to these winter waters had begun to leave, satisfied by their touring. The sound of their footsteps heralded their farewell. Yeah, how about this? Or this? An hour into the wayfaring sea voyage, losing themselves in the maze-like corridors of seemingly endless exhibits, they somehow found themselves on the next floor. Alko had heard that the aquarium was situated on the top floor, and was shocked to find out that there was yet another above it. It was luckily by design that the actual top floor can only be accessed from within the aquarium. I like this. I don't know why, I always love it when Alko makes this face. She's just so pissed a lot of the time. Moments of intrigue such as this are what attractions are made of.
アリス？
Turning this way and that, she found Alice had disappeared. Oh no. Is this gonna be a magic battle? She had just been there, however, and Alko took to looking for her. She soon found her nearby. Okay. I thought they were attacked by a mage or something. I'm like, no, that death flag was way too quick. I don't want anything to happen to anyone. They're all so cute. Her white overcoat shone brightly in front of the dimly lit exhibit. She was staring motionlessly into the water tank. She almost looked to be staring through it, distracted by something.
どうしたのアリス？気分でも悪くなった？
She spoke, hoping to snap her out of it. Alice's typical cold aura seemed to have all but left her.
珍しい魚でもいた？それ、余り物を端に追いやりましたって感じの水槽だけど。
Oh, this is the first time I think we're looking at Alice like straight from the front. Actually, no, it isn't. But it's very rare, at least in this getup. Alice gave a non-committal response. Just ahead of her gaze was a single shadow.
Wow, Mambo!
Ocean sunfish. Alice remained motionless, unresponsive to Alko's sarcasm. She stood in silence, watching the poor little fish drifting listlessly in the tank where they put the fish that did not fit anywhere else, here at the end of the hall. To put it lightly, the sunfish were not especially pleasant to look at. When looking at one, it begged the question of what direction evolution wanted to take with it. It looked like it swam using rudder-like fins on its top and bottom, but lacked the grace of the other fish. To Alko, its eyes, body, and strange movements made it an awkward creature. But...
ねえアリス、あっちの水槽見ない？ジンベエザメの回遊とか見目麗しいわよ。
Alice, unmoved, fixated on the sunfish. It clumsily drifted around the tank, occasionally bumping into the glass as it turned.
青子、この子、泳ぐのが下手だわ。
Alice extended her finger towards the glass, then retracted it, feeling childish.
ま、いっか。愛嬌だけはあるしね、マンボ。
It did not seem like Alice was going to budge. Resigning herself, Aoko stayed with Alice while she stared at the cushion-shaped fish.
へえ、マンボウってフグ目だったんだ。何マンボウのメスは一度に3億個の卵を海中に放出する地上で最も多くの卵を産む脊椎動物である。なるほどね。他の魚たちにとっちゃ格好の餌になるから多く産むこと。それ自体が生存のための手段になるわけか。
It's bait. Eat my children, but not me. Though Aoko seemed to be taken in by the biological details of the fish, Alice couldn't have cared less. She was lost in the ebb and flow of emotions between wonder and woe with the ever-clumsy bump of the fish into the glass. When out of nowhere, she softly spoke.
さっきの話だけど。
さっきの話って何？
About Sojiro?
彼について留守を任せるとかそういうの。
It seemed like Alice had returned to her normal self. That cold aura, wherever inside the mansion or out, that stubborn chill that pushed people away was back.
私の気が変わったわけじゃないわ。依然として彼のことはわからないもの。わからない人をどうやって信頼すればいいの？
まあね。でもじゃあどうして？
青子のことはわかるわ。あなたはいつも正しい選択をする。だから青子を信じる彼の人間性は信じてもいい。
Aww. I really like this. Sojiro gave them an opportunity to be alone in a spot in an area where they don't have to talk about magic. And it let them really show their relationship with each other, which is honestly just friends. You can see that, like, you know, Alice trusts Aoko, and Aoko also, like, gives leverage to Alice, like when she wants to look at the fish and she just, you know, let him instead of like saying, oh, I want to see this. It was true. She did not know Sojiro, nor had any intention to. But because of her trust in Aoko, she could trust in Aoko's decision to allow him to stay. It seemed Alice was challenging her own feelings. She said she could not trust someone she did not know. Or in other words, she wished to trust a person, and in order to do so, she needed to know more about them.
口にするのはなんだから突っ込まないけどね。それより何？そんなに私のこと信頼してくれてたの？アリス？
好意はともかく信頼だけはしているわ。
I may not be fond of you, but I trust you.
だって共犯者でしょ、私たち。
Partners in crime. Her white coat swayed to and fro. Just like that, their short excursion had come to an end. Straight ahead was the exit back to the real world. A step away from the exhibit was a step towards becoming a better roommates.
優しい顔をしているのに傷だらけね。
Ah, physically too. One last small whisper. And with that, she bid farewell to the lonely figure in the tank. Back to the house. Here we go! The sun sets early during winter, falling below the horizon by 4 in the afternoon. Evening seemed to arrive at the mansion earlier than in the city.
なるほど。君の生態がよくわかった。
I forgot about this. I am now an expert in crocodiles. Sojiro sat alone, sipping his warm tea in the chilly room. He relaxed on the couch, staring out the window, having his fill of crocodiles. Once he sprawled out on the sofa, his body refused to leave. Maybe he had always wanted to try it. After 3 straight hours of crocodile watching, he wondered what it would be like to laze there for the remainder of the day as he nervously checked over his shoulder. Just as he was considering taking the opportunity to nap until Aoko and Alice returned, an unfamiliar sound echoed through the halls of the mansion. Undergoing a sluggish evolution of his own, he rose from all fours to being a bipedal. There was a knocking sound at regular intervals. The sound, distinctly coming from the front door, was more familiar now. He had experienced it before during his days in the apartment. That's weird. Oh no, he shouldn't answer it. That's gonna be dangerous. Because Alko and Alice would just come in. If someone's knocking, then, and they didn't order anything, then it's gonna be a stranger. Stranger danger.
新聞の勧誘か
As he made for the foyer, Sojiro noted how impressed he was that they had hiked all the way up the hill. The sound resounded eerily. Without a doorbell of any kind, visitors had no choice but to rap on the door using whatever they had in hand. It would take an iron clenched fist to procure that kind of sound. From his position in the hall, the front door looked like an ornately built fortification. The strong double doors looked as though they could withstand any onslaught of blows. They rattled in protest to the repeated knocking. Try as this person might, it seemed no amount of enemy attack could breach the castle gate. But Sojiro, having experience selling newspapers himself, announced himself. Oh no.
今開けます
Oh no, oh no. He knew what it was like to be in their shoes, so was unsurprised by their unwillingness to surrender. Oh no, who's gonna be? Oh, it's her! Uh-oh.
おう
There stood the second surprise of today. Sojiro stood speechless and motionless. The young woman hardly looked the part of a newspaper salesman. Standing there in the courtyard against a backdrop of the dusk horizon, she looked more suited to being a resident of this western-style mansion, at least more than Sojiro. That's the person from the pachinko parlor. She had a dainty frame, but a striking presence nonetheless. She was a little shorter than Sojiro, but tall for a woman. Her light green clothing was delicate yet flashy, and clearly something out of foreign fashion. Bold, but prim and proper. Though slightly loud, her appearance spoke of strength and confidence. There was a line, so I thought he was going to get interrupted. Confidence. The kind of woman not to be trifled with that Sojiro knew all too well. Only, unlike the ones he knew, the woman had appeared more friendly than intimidating. Perhaps it was her short hair that made her look approachable. Bright and brown, it stopped just above the nape of her neck. Sojiro, yet to say a word, thought what a shame it was to be so short. She looked at him and offered a smile. Despite looking older than Sojiro, this made her appear impish and cute. Sojiro knew himself to be made of stronger stuff than to fall for cute smiles, and found it more than a little suspicious. At any rate, it was rude to stare for so long.
どちら様でしょうか
He asked shyly, steeling himself. To which she replied, uh-oh.
こんばんは。青子います？
She smiled as she used Aoko's first name with a sense of familiarity. Oh, is that the end of the chapter? Okay, no, it is not.
青崎はいないんです
Why did you have to fade to black? She smiled again, this time deviously, upon learning of Aoko's absence.
それじゃあ、クオンジさんも留守なんだ。
Sojiro looked perplexed. This was the first time he had heard Alice referred to by her last name only, and again spoken with customary respect.
そっか。夜ならともかく、日中から二人で出かけるとは感心感心。形だけの雑居だろうと思ったけど、ちゃんとうまくいってるのね。
I mean, they wouldn't have if it wasn't for Sojiro. Sojiro found himself nodding in response to her smile, like, yep, look at what I did. It was clear she knew Aoko and Alice. She was giving him an uncomfortable feeling. I mean, the first time he saw her, he freaking just ran away. Left his job, I'm leaving early, bye-bye. Likely in her mid-20s, she did not appear that much older than he was. Behind her carefree tone and bright smile, she was clearly trying to hide something.
それじゃあ、帰ってくるにしても夜？
はい終電前には帰ってくると思いますけど
そう。ところで君、誰？
Sojiro, ever so troubled by her forwardness, wanted to ask her the same. Alas, who are you was a question far too difficult for Sojiro.
すみません 誰かと言われてもよくわからなくて。とりあえず今は留守番してますけど、実は青崎の友人なんです。
You see, I'm just a mountain boy, and this house is on a mountain. It's mine. A response with not an ounce of truth to it. She's not friends. The woman's face lit up at what she believed was the boy's attempt to tease her.
へえ、面白いこと言うのね、君。名前。
Oh, whoops.
静木宗十郎というのですが。
His shy answer made her giggle. Sojiro could not understand what he had said was so funny, but her laugh did not offend him. Rather than seeming derogatory, it came across as warm and affable. Then, after finishing giggling, she looked him straight in the eye and gave him a soft look.
いや、気に入ったわ。宗十郎くんだっけ？君には合わない名前だけ
He
ど
just walks in.
それも暗示的で素敵だし。じゃあ、そういうわけで、お茶でも入れてくれない？
あ、いや。
She stepped past him into the mansion and swiftly left him at the door.
うわ、呆れた。ほんと以前のまんまじゃない。
Ah, so she used to live here. Who could she be?
せっかくこっちに持ってきたんだから、悪いところはリフォームしたものと思ったけど、何も柱の歪みまで再現しなくてもいいのにね。
She said, cheerfully inspecting the foyer. Soja still stood at the entrance. The clicking of her heels on the wooden floor jumped around as she moved towards the drawing room.
どうしたの？こっちでしょ？今は。
She disappeared from the foyer into the drawing room, oddly familiar with the layout of the house.
青崎かアリス、どっちかの先輩かな。
Soja muttered to himself, walking to the drawing room. He entered to see the woman walking around the room gleefully. Like a child seeing a park for the first time in ages, breathing in the nostalgia, trolling as girls are wont to do.
よく見れば、このテレビって。
Would you like to watch about crocodiles? She stared at the television inquisitively, perhaps owing to the fact that she had never seen a 30-inch TV before. Awkwardly, the TV was still displaying images of the wild animal kingdom. Sojo wished that he would stop the video before he answered the door.
もし。
He blurted out, attempting to regain his composure. He had many questions, but first he resolved himself to, at the very least, ask her name. With that, she turned to him with a cold look on her face. She glared at Sojiro over her glasses, her long and slender brows pointing at him, all as if to hint at a threat. A gaze that made him feel like he had chosen his words very poorly. Sojiro apologetically clammed up. The young woman moved in.
やだな、宗十郎くん。もしなんてかしこまって。私そんなおばさんに見える？
She snickered. Her disapproving glare melted into a teasing smile. Of course not. It'd be more accurate to say that she had the air of an older sister. Or at least that's how Sojiro attempted to reply using only gestures, to which she grinned smugly.
よろしい。なら、そんな他人行儀な話し方はやめましょう。つまらないし、柄じゃないわ。
Oh, nay-san, she said, taking a seat on the sofa, naturally and effortlessly, and without making a sound. Her posture and movement exuded sophistication, and she required no words to instruct him to hurry along and make her tea. Oh, look at this demanding presence. Without pressing her further, Sojo headed to the kitchen. He figured she would not talk until she had some tea. He chose the fauchon that he was forced to replace once before, after using it without permission. Since she was here to see Aoko, he would serve her the tea in Aoko's Sevre? I don't know how to pronounce that. Teacup. Into the cup as blue as the ocean depths, he carefully poured the tea before returning to the drawing room. Oh, that is a cool looking teacup. He gently placed the teacup on the table and looked at the woman.
尋ねるのが遅れましたけど、青崎の知り合いかな。
Despite being told otherwise, Sojiro could not help but stand on ceremony. He would actively have to try not to. Displeased or disappointed, She glared at him once again.
その青崎っていうのをやめてくれない？なんだかくすぐったくて。青子でいいでしょ、呼び方は。
She said, not at all upset, as she slowly raised the cup to her lips to take a sip. Whoops. It was the kind of moment that Aoko and Alice might react to by berating the boy, but the woman chose to brush it off with a smile. Though he did not realize it in that moment, he would soon enough understand that some people did appreciate his efforts, regardless of whether they were misguided.
ほら、立ってないで座って。見下ろされるのは好きじゃないんだ、私。
Sojiro tilted his head, noticing a slight familiarity in the manner of her speaking, almost as if he had been talking to someone he had seen before.
あれ？
Looking at her sitting at the sofa, forgotten memories began to rise to the surface. Noticing his reaction, she became visibly delighted.
思い出した？私もちょっと驚いたわ。青子を訪ねに来たらいつか見た君が出迎えてくるんだから。
Oh? Now that she was laughing, Sojiro remembered everything. He had only seen her for an instant, but there was no mistake it was her. It had to be her, the woman smoking the long cigarette, winning at the pachinko parlor.
あの時は私もショックだったな。宗十郎くん、目が合うなりいきなり逃げ出したでしょ？
Damn, she remembered that with, like, so much clarity.
そんなに私ってこわもてなのかしらって、あの日の晩は真剣に悩んだんだから。
She clearly enjoyed the memory. She was right. He mistook the shadow he had seen in the park for this woman and ran, though he had learned that it was Aoko a day later. Even though it was clearly a case of mistaken identity, he now knew why he had thought of them one the same.
そうか、雰囲気が似てるんだ。
They do? Finally, he had realized the true identity of the woman before him. He chided himself for not realizing it sooner.
それじゃあ、あなたは。
Just as he was about to say it, she held up her hand to interrupt him. She pointed at him, like she was aiming a gun.
ごめんなさい。君の仕草がちょっと可愛くて、からかいが過ぎちゃった。自己紹介が遅れたけど、私は青崎瞳子。
The sister is here! Finally! 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 As if you've probably heard me like questioning this like several times between like the last few episodes.
率直に言うと、青子の実の姉ってわけね。
One-san! That figures. He should have known. With a smile that could impart courage to any that glance upon it, Toko looked just how Sojiro imagined Aoko would be in the not-too-distant future. It all made sense. While Aoko was earnest and diligent, Toko was shrewd and playful.
あの子が困ってるって聞いてね。いい加減忠告してあげる気で、はるばるやってきたわけなのでした。
Sure. Aoko's sister chuckled coyly while sipping her tea. Lured by her charm, Sojiro sat on the sofa as well. He felt like he could relax a little now that the initial shock of receiving an unexpected guest had subsided. Just like that, it was almost 5 in the afternoon. Aoko and Alice would be returning from their excursion soon. Into the ground we go, into the subway. Alright, I think I'm gonna stop for now. Yes, the girl has finally, officially been introduced. Toko Aozaki is finally here. I mentioned this before, I didn't want to say anything, though I was probably heavily hinting at it. But Toko Aozaki is a very big player in the Nasuverse from what I understand. She appears in like a lot of things. So at the very least, well, kind of spoiler but not really, she's not gonna die by the end of this. Just like how Aoko is not gonna die. I don't know about anyone else, but those two at the very least will be alive by the end of this visual novel. But Toko is in a lot of things, like I think she's in Kara no Kyokai. I think that's the main thing she's in. She's been a part of Fate in one part as well. She was also in I think the El Malloy series, which is also part of Fate. She's just kind of like she and Aoko just kind of are a part of the Nasuverse in a lot of different media. So it's kind of, it's really interesting to see her here. I actually don't really remember much about her. Most of the memories I have of Toko were from the Garden of Sinners, Kara no Kyokai, which, to which she has a certain power and she's very strong. I'm not going to say anything because it'll be relevant throughout the series, I am sure. And we'll definitely see more of it in the future. But she is a very powerful magician, magus, witch, however you want to call it. So I'm looking forward to seeing her and Aoko meet up. Her with Aoko and Alice, because if I recall correctly, I don't know if the sisters have a good relationship with each other. I actually do not remember this, but I don't believe it's completely amicable. But we'll find out more about the relationship next time. And until then, I will be seeing you. See ya!